Hello! Today I'm going to be talking to you about The Gate by Natsume Soseki. To begin this video, I would like to say that I strongly feel that if you are a lover of literature, this is a great book to read. I feel that one of the greatest hallmarks of calling something literature is that it is written in a particular style. That style means as much as the story, because there are some books and stories where very, very little happens, and it is the way in which the novel is told make it a wonderful book to read. And that is why I love this book, The Gate. Like, if you're someone who loves plot and if you're someone who loves action, this is not the book for you. This is about a married couple who are in their early 30s, maybe mid 30s, who are just scraping by, living on the cusp of the Tokyo borders. They're worried about money. They're worried about the problems that come from being poor, and they love each other. That is this novel. If you read the back of the book, it will make you think that things really happen and there are these moments of quite, tension. There's no tension in this book. This book has almost no tension whatsoever. And you think to yourself, well, come on, Grant, I don't want to read that. I want to read something engaging. That's what I say. This book is for the lovers of literature, the people who love the craft of writing and the craft of telling a story. Even if it is a boring story, this is the book for you people. Well, I guess if I wanted 1 million viewers, I would have made reviews of Harry Potter, right? I'm going to review the books that I want to review. This is my YouTube channel. I review the books I like. The main character's name is Soseki. His wife's name is Oyone. They are doing, well, they're not quite doing the best they can. Like, the main thing is money. And Soseki, he should have inherited some money from his father, but he was too preoccupied when he was a student, and he allowed his uncle to manage that inheritance for him. We are quite sure that that uncle has either squandered or lost or just stolen that money. And so the main character of this novel, he's always worried about, where is the money? I am sure my father should have left me some money. Yes, I made a mistake leaving it to my uncle to manage that for me, but I was busy at the time, and now I'm desperate for funds. But to do with the Japanese culture, the whole evading rudeness at all costs, not to be too direct in statements and not to be too forceful in your claims to something. He has to go in this roundabout, circuitous way to try to, now that his uncle is dead and now he has to deal with his aunt, who is also evasive when it comes to the issue of the money. He writes her a letter and they have a brief discussion about the money, and she says, well, I can't really talk about that now because her son, his cousin, is away on business and he knows more about the money than I do. And so this sends him home. Even though nothing has been resolved, he feels at least a bit pleased with himself that he made that effort to go to talk to his aunt, because he feels that that is the tiniest little step forward. They don't do anything. They try very slightly to do something, but nothing comes of it. That is why it is such a subtle pleasure. I don't know about your life, but I feel, maybe it's my own pathetic existence, but I feel that so often in my life that I wanted to do something. Like, I didn't go running out and grab it with both hands. I took a little step forward. I checked a website and I got a phone number, and I thought to myself, that's good for today. Maybe tomorrow I'll actually call that phone number and actually get a bit of information, because I guess when you're pathetic, it's hard to step forward the way strong people step forward. You know, strong people march forward and they get the things that they want. And if you're, a bit retiring or shy or self-conscious or timid, you just can't express your will as strongly as other people can, well, then you don't. You take a few steps forward. You say, well, okay, I got a phone number. I'll call the doctor. Oh, I got the answering machine for the doctor, but I left a message. I did something. Tomorrow I'll call again, earlier. Let me read you a little bit about this. That small thing done, simply to retrace his steps homeward, somehow did not suffice. So he walked on, puffing out cigarette smoke into the autumn sunlight, the urge in him to wander afar, to some place where he could etch vividly on his mind the sensation that the very essence of Tokyo was to be found here, on this spot, and then to take it home as a souvenir of this day, his Sunday before he lay down to sleep. Perfect. To be sure, he was a man for years who had not only lived and breathed the air of Tokyo, but who had also commuted by streetcar to the office and back every day, passing twice to and fro through the city's bustling quarters. Neither physically relaxed nor mentally at ease, he was in the habit of simply passing through these places in a daze, and had not recently experienced even a moment's awareness that he lived in a thriving metropolis. Normally, caught up as he was in the busyness of his daily routine, this did not bother him, but come Sunday, when granted the opportunity for relaxation, his workaday life would suddenly strike him as restless and superficial. He was driven to the conclusion that while living in Tokyo, he had never in fact seen Tokyo, and whenever he reached this point in his thoughts, he would feel overwhelmed by the bleakness, the dreariness of it all. That's chapter 2. If you've ever had the experience that an author is writing your own very thoughts about existence in 1902, 120 years before you read those thoughts, it's a weird, melancholy, sad, beautiful experience to know that people feel like this all around the world. This book is so beautiful and sad and so subtle. If you're watching the channel, you know that in the last couple of years I've become kind of obsessed with Japanese literature. I don't know if it is the Japanese language itself or the skill of the authors. It's just that they seem to write with such a light touch. And I love that. Almost more than anything else in literature, I love that light succinctness, the brevity, the beauty of a few well-chosen words. Had a very interesting life, a very hard life, which is, I don't think it's mandatory to have a hard life to be a great author. However, it does often seem to be the case. Natsume Kinosuke was born on the 9th of February, 1867. He began his life as an unwanted child. Born to his mother late in her life, 40 years old and his father 53, when he was born he already had 5 siblings. Having 5 children and a toddler had created family insecurity and was in some ways a disgrace to the Natsume family. A childless couple adopted him in 1868, raised him until the age of 9. When the couple divorced, he returned to his biological family and was welcomed by his mother, although regarded as a nuisance by his father. Continuing with the biography because it's astounding. In 1900, when the world was almost inconceivable to our sensibilities today, the Japanese government sent Soseki to study in Great Britain as Japan's first Japanese English literature scholar. Wonderful. He visited Cambridge and stayed a night there, but gave up the idea of studying at the university because he could not afford it on the government scholarship. So instead, he studied at the University of College London. He had a miserable time in London, spending most of his days indoors, buried in books, and his friends feared that he might be losing his mind. This is what he wrote about that time of his life. "The 2 years I spent in London were the most unpleasant years of my life. Among English gentlemen, I lived in misery, like a poor dog that had strayed amongst a pack of wolves." You don't necessarily need to be interested in Japanese literature to read this novel. This novel is about life, relationship, the struggles poor people have. Very little happens in this novel. They live together. He goes to work. She makes his dinner when he comes home. She asks him about how his day was. Suddenly, his younger brother, who's a bit of an upstart, has to come and live with them because he needs a cheap place to live while he continues his university studies. Upsetting the family because now it's going to be such an expense to have his younger brother living there, and he's a bit of a disturbing influence to live with. That's all that happens in this novel, and it is heart-rending. And I'll read you this. Although, in the course of their life together, the two of them had achieved a greater harmony than the average couple. Where children had been concerned, they had been less fortunate than most. Had it been a clear-cut case of infertility, it would have been easier to bear, but to lose the children they had actually conceived, this had made their misfortune all the more keenly felt. Normal, everyday, regular words. It's like a lance that goes straight through me. I would like to go on and read the next paragraph, but the emotions are welling up already. Just reading that paragraph. They love one another and they can't have a child. And they've tried. What is more honest? What is more like the real guts of literature than provoking those emotions? Nothing else. It's not about some big bomb at the end of the story. It's not about some big hero killing the bad guy. It's not about that. It's about provoking the beauty, the sadness, the humanity, provoking the humanity that we all share. We all share that. Like, we're all human beings and we all have emotions, and that is what literature taps into because we forget. We become callous and we become caustic and we become jaded and we become so fucking cynical. Things remind us. Art reminds us. Music, of course. Music is, the great reminder. Great film and great literature. We have heart and we have a soul and we have these goddamn emotions that are so troublesome that make life so worth living. The bit in this novel where his wife gets sick and he comes home and worries about her because she's never been sick like this before. And they call out to the doctor. They ask the doctor to come, please come. And the husband is at her side. He's trying to take care of her. And he's thinking about, what if it's a young doctor and he doesn't have a lot of experience with something like this? Or what if the doctor prescribes some medicine that is too expensive for us to afford? What will we do in that case? And he worries about his wife. I honestly have never read anything as compelling as that man sitting beside his wife who's suffering in sickness. It was the greatest stuff I've ever read. For the literature lovers, for any writer who wants to get in touch with, in North America, they just have this idea, go with the action drives everything. That's not the only way to tell a story. I'm so goddamn happy to tell you about this book. This is the first book by Natsume Soseki that I've ever read. I'm really loving the Japanese literature this last couple of years. So I hope that I can really strongly recommend some of you. Please pick it up. It's a very short novel, 214 pages. Yeah, there's quite a lot of notes. There's 94 notes, and I don't feel the notes are always very justified. I think that might be this publishing company, the New York NYRB people. You don't need that many notes in the age of the internet. There's a note for natto, and if you don't know what natto is, you can Google it. You don't need a note for that. It's not something that is so necessary to have a note for it. This very old-fashioned, like Japanese pants, and they're called a hakama. I used to do Aikido, and so I was wearing hakama quite a lot. And there's a note for that. A long, pleated, trouser-like skirt, usually divided at the inner seam and worn over a kimono from the waist to the feet, part of a man's traditional formal wear, although worn also by women on some occasions. That is very unnecessary as a note there. Too many notes is too distracting. It pulls us out when I see that. Like, I know what a hakama is. I'm too goddamn curious to be able to resist flipping to the back of the book and I do know what a hakama is. There's too many notes in this book talking about a certain variety of plant. A small, shrub-sized variety of a banana tree, widely grown in Japan for ornamental purposes. There is something in literature about if you know, and you get the little, I know. And if you don't know, well, you don't know. And if you have the desire to go and check it, we're so fucking pampered and spoiled. We just Google, click, 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 and I know it. Imagine once upon a time, 25 years ago, if you didn't know it, you really didn't know it. You had to go find a Japanese person and ask them if they could explain it to you. Anyway, please read it. It's wonderful. I really got quite a lot from this book. I saw a lot of reflections of my own personality in this, wishing that I could just go out and grab life by the throat. Who does that? Thank you for watching. Grant loves books. Love Japanese literature. Take care.